Thank you. Don't you wish we could have this every Sunday? Don't you wish we could have Christmas every week of the year? And no, I'm not talking about all the gifts, unless you're talking about the gift of being present. You know, doesn't it seem that Christmas is coming sooner and sooner? I remember when people used to started complaining that at Thanksgiving you would start to hear the jingles in the stores and start to see the gifts being put out to be bought and all of that kind of stuff. Is it just me, or does it seem like that's happening in Halloween? Kim said August. This morning, Keith said Labor Day. Isn't that just crazy? What I think is even more concerning is how quickly we take it all down, pack it all up, and put it all away. As you well know, I was down in South Carolina this last week with family celebrating my mom's 80th birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. We love you. It was wonderful. And she and Bob found several streets that just were adorned with amazing lights, and they wanted to take us to go show them. So we went to go see them. The majority of the sparkly LEDs, blow-up Rudolphs, not Mason, they got that in the first service. And even mangers were taken down before New Year's. Well, today we celebrate Epiphany, and if I succeed at communicating to you what God has called me to share with you, we will come to see that we must never put the lights away. That's a metaphor, of course, unless you want to be like me and have your spouse begging you to take down the Christmas lights before Lent or Easter. So Epiphany comes 12 days after Christmas. It is the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles, to the non-Jews, represented by the Magi, who brought their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. To decode that, that is simply to say that Epiphany is when God revealed Christ to all people everywhere. This is an imperative truth. God is the God of all people and all nations. Isn't it interesting that the first people to bow down to Christ were shepherds? 1, they were lowly. 2, they were not Christians or Jews. And 3, they were nobodies. Then there's the wise ones from the east. The Bible, of course, doesn't say that there was 3 of them, but we simply infer that because of the gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Look to the east, it says, from Bethlehem. And on a modern map, we can speculate that if they were from the east, they were maybe from Iraq or Iran or Saudi Arabia. The geography of those areas, the names of those nations have changed a lot. Muhammad was not even born, so we're pretty confident they weren't Muslim, but we also are pretty darn confident that their religion was a lot different than ours. So in this day and age of religious and ethnic and racial vitriol, it's important to acknowledge that all people are ultimately God's children. Do we agree? And if Christianity can infer that there was 3 wise men or magi or kings, then why in the world can't we infer that there were 3 women there? And no, that's not just a setup for that classic joke that if there were women there instead of men, they would have asked for directions, arrived on time, helped deliver the baby, cleaned the stable, made a casserole, and brought disposable diapers as gifts. Well, okay, so maybe that was a lame setup for that joke. Just please know that it ultimately was a setup for this beautiful art by Maya Telford, and this poem by Jan Richardson. Wise women also came. The fire burned in their wombs long before they saw the flaming star in the sky. They walked in the shadows, trusting the path would open under the light of the moon. Wise women also came, seeking no directions, no permission from any king. They came by their own authority, their own desire, their own longing. They came in quiet, spreading no rumors, sparking no fears to lead to innocent slaughter, to their sister Rachel's inconsolable lamentations. Wise women also came, and they brought useful gifts. Water for labor's washing. Fire for warm illumination. A blanket for swaddling. Wise women also came, at least 3 of them, holding Mary in the labor, crying out with her in the birth pangs, breathing ancient blessings into her ear. Wise women also came, and they went, as wise women always do, home a different way. Is this not what God has called us to do for our fallen world? To serve others in their time of need with the gifts that God has given us. Last weekend's worship would not have been what it was if everyone here did not use their gifts that God had given them over time. If you haven't seen it, you ought to go online and you ought to check it out. My mistake, I put the bulletins in Stephanie's office. There were bulletins. We did print them. I just forgot to tell them when we called for Plan B that they were in the office. Using the gifts God has given you to serve people in their time of need. That's a bright star. That's a bright star that shines all year long. It doesn't get packed away with Rudolph or the Grinch or Frosty. It's a star that shines in the darkness. And the darkness will never has, never will, never shall overcome it. Friends, all people are God's children. Our calling is to show them the light of the world that shines in the darkness. That's the perfect love of that innocent babe on your bulletin cover. The art that God gave us in such a way that others are drawn to him and find their light to shine in their lives. Amen? Amen.